Hello dear Indians, this video is dedicated to my fellow Indians because today is a remarkable day in the history of the protest of the farmers who have been struggling for their legitimate demands related to the farming issues. And it's almost over a year that the struggle has come to a desirable end. And it's a big victory, and triumphant this Kisan Sabha is just now addressing the press, and I'm really elated. In fact, it's a moment of jubilation for me personally, because I've been a votary of the reduction of the grievances and the kind of struggle, a kind of agitation, the peaceful demonstration they have been displaying, and the kind of resistance, the kind of non-violent, pressing of the demands in a very orderly fashion right from the beginning, and the kind of organizational abilities and the kind of patience and obduracy and the relentless pursuit for the pressing ahead with the long-held pressing needs. Not only of those farmers who have been staging protests and demonstrations all over the country, although so many attempts have been made to disqualify, discourage, discredit, and even dismantle and disparage their peaceful demands, protests and their demonstrations throughout the states, and the kind of leadership in tandem with their principled overtures, their stances, their craftsmanship, the brilliant example of how peaceful demonstrations by commoners without having any leader in the apex body. Or this is an organization that has been working for the welfare of the common farmers, and this is called Sanjut Kisan Morcha, United Farmers Associations, or SKM actually. So so they're calling an end to all the demonstrations of all the states now. It's a big victory, no doubt. Bravo. In fact, I say it personally, and from my perspective, I extend my heartiest congratulations to those who have been behind the scenes struggling, and those have been nursing a kind of hope for any kind of peaceful resistance in the form of calling people, waving their unition, and struggling through all the crushing attempts in the most inclement weather. They started in the winter season, and in the chilly weather, the hot scorching heat. They have been rounded and lathi charge. In fact, some of the farmers were crushed under jeep. The minister's son, they were in fact killed. And unfortunately, 600 farmers, they had to lay down their lives on the altar of this peaceful protest, only to pave the way for the Modi government, which remained recalcitrant, remained despotic, remained oblivious, and in fact there were kind of brutality and nonchalance and the kind of attempt at crushing this democratically organized rallies after rallies. And those poor farmers, elderly people, men, women, and even children, and people from all over the world, they expressed their solidarity in one way or the other. And they not only, in fact, they pester after the government to bring them to the negotiation table. The 11 rounds of talks were held. And when at the beginning of this protest, I had explained in my video how this farming, 3 draconian farm laws were pushed down the throat of the farmers, and that was not for the welfare of the common peasants, of the people involved with cultivations. And actually 70% of the people in India, they are basically reliant on cultivation farming, and agriculture remains the mainstay of Indian economy. So the government could ill afford to ignore such huge masses and their legitimacy and their welfare in the future, and for the sake of those crony capitalists, to name a handful of them, Adani and Ambani's and all those who have been eyeing on this lucrative large chunk of benefits by overpricing or black marketing, hoarding, and the kind of silos that were being built by Adani's. So those silos have to be closed down, and it's not for for the benefits and maximizing the profits of those entrepreneurs who keep an eye, on only amassing wealth and the kind of riches they have been accumulating over the years, exploiting these struggling farmers, especially those farmers with the small scale farming capabilities. The land is divided into smaller chunks and small holdings, where we can't even have a mechanized kind of farming without the help of the government subsidies and fertilizers for irrigation, and they had to pay hefty bill on electricity. In fact, there has been an agreement on waiving of the electricity bills also, and there have been thousands of tractors being termed as outdated, and they have to be replaced by the new ones. But the poor farmers who can ill afford to replace those tractors, expensive altogether overnight. So the senses prevail on this government, which was under stupor. It was disillusioned to believe that it can crush any movement by force, and obviously they tried their best. They brought about canards. They discredited them by bringing slurs on them. They even called them Khalistanis and terrorists, and they call them these are Andolan Jivi. They are Andolan mongers. Like demonstration mongers, and they love to be there. They're eating pizzas, they're having jubilations, they're having nice time. The cost of they're trying to disturbing the commoners by blocking roads and highways, but apparently this demonstration, this protest has the blessings of all the sections of society, regardless of the strata, regardless of the financial state. And in fact, I was really wishing somewhere under my nursing a grudge against this government of the high-handedness, the kind of brutality, the kind of the crushing defeat. And they were calling all these farmers just negotiation, but to leave them humiliated, defeated, pulverized, in the sense that, it seemed as if there was a time when this protest was going to be crushed under the batons. In fact, 200 policemen were sent with the SSP, and Tikait, he's at the helm of affairs, and he's the main leader, one of the main leaders. from that guy. I really salute his audacity, his courage, and his uprightness and his righteousness. I mean, he broke under the pressure, and he says that he will die on the altar and he's going to sacrifice his life for the sake of, but he's not going to withdraw. And most of the farmers, they were adamant, they were really resolute, and the kind of resilience that showed, that paved the way for the government for reconsidering their demands. And Ticket is from the Western UP, and then we have some of the Marxist lenient, and then we have the other 5 members committee was formed to look into the affairs of. So these 5 the committee really went to nitty-gritties, and they finalized and deliberated upon how best possible. And the government has conceded that it's in the interest of their own governments that they must not only accept the demands but also leave them happy and contented with the offers that they have. So now it's coming in the written form. The government has issued a written letter in which a 5-member committee is being formed. We will look into how possibly the MSP, the minimum support price, is to be retained, and with the repeal of the 3 draconian laws, now those kind of conditions do not apply at all. This MSP would remain probably with 23 crops, which are the main commercial crops, and that fetch a lot of, yield, basically the main income of the government to the farmers. And also, indirectly the government becomes a beneficiary of the taxes that these poor farmers they pay, although they get some subsidized kind of support, but the subsidy is peanut, So SKM has declared that on 15th of December, they're going to re-look at, they're going to prune and deliberate again after suspending the agitation on 9th, and they're going to vacate the borders. They have been, almost inhabiting this. It has become their second home. So they will be leaving, packing their belongings, and in fact they will be migrating and marching towards the original homeland. So it's really a pleasant surprise to the Indians, and not only the farmers community, but the entire human populace, the Indian populace, because this is just not the triumphant moment for the struggling and demonstrating or protesting farmers, but it's a victory of all those offsprings and children of those, like soldiers whose parents have been struggling there. Most of the farmers, they have their children who are, fighting for the border, and they have the, their families assisting in there. So it's a historic moment, no doubt. And Darshan Pal, one of the 5 members, is saying it is a historic victory. And they are being, really grateful to, in fact, I'm thankful to the government that it has come to its senses, ultimately realizing the fact that they cannot ignore such 70% of the India's population, which comprise of the cultivating and farming community. Moreover, in India's GDP largely accounts for the producers, and India is basically an agriculture nation. And how could you ignore the pressing demands or genuine grievances, and how could you stop ameliorating the welfare and the conditions of these impoverished, struggling peasants and farmers, and especially small scale farmers who do not own their own lands. In fact, they till the lands for the others. So they remain united, and united farmers associations, they really I mean, it's like they left an indelible mark on the footstands of this historic protest movements and demonstrations after India got its independence from the yoke of British Raj. In fact, this is supposed to be the longest ever, protest demonstration, a peaceful demonstration ever taken by anyone, any community in centuries. And no doubt, one of the organizations, agencies in England, has decided to honor Tikait as one of the longest surviving protesting leader. And I really, I have a lot of reverence for the guy who not only handled the situation so diligently, so artistically, and so professionally. I should say professionally, because he comes from a family whose father used to fight for the genuine causes of the farmers. So it's in his DNA, and he knew that a time will come when the government will have to kowtow, will have to prostrate before these protesting farmers, because in democracy, it's the people's will. It's ultimately the welfare of the common masses. It's the government by the people, for the people, and of the people. It's not a government by one majoritarian ruling government, whether it's BJP or Congress or any other party. So this happened to be, although it was unfortunate that it took so much of internal bickering and animosity and unpleasantness, and then do you remember that on 26th of January a Khalistani flag was hoisted on them, and that wasn't pleasant to see. To me, it was really the darkest day in the history of after independence in India's history. So this anyway, if it has come to a successful and fabulous close, and there's no doubt that had they resorted to some kind of other gimmicks have been played by some of the political parties, because every single political party was trying to capitalize on, trying to hijack this protest one way or the other, because they wanted, they knew that this is a mass protest, and whoever is against this mass protest is going to lose the sympathy of the commoners. So maybe viewing the elections ahead in UP and Punjab, and the government, it took some time, and a year or so, to realize that they couldn't have perhaps, they couldn't afford to crush and crumple this kind of legitimate protests by thousands and thousands of people being backed by millions of people, like around 60 crores of people involved with cultivation and farming. And in fact, this kind of protest gives us a lesson that if the right-minded people with the right intention to achieve the right kind of objective keep working in unison, and they pester ahead with no autocratic or despotic government, howsoever powerful or howsoever a majority with the thumping 340 of MPs and all, they dare not think of crushing this kind of peaceful demonstration. Now there are so many issues that have been gaining grounds regarding this reforms, farming reforms. That has been actually overdue, and those three bills were, although pushed undemocratically through illegal means and somehow tried to be sealed or stamped in democratic fashion without consulting the opposition parties or those parties who were involved, they talked about some of the reformative steps that are long overdue. The other nations in the world, they have tried and tested, and some of the reforms could have been well-meaning if could have been enforced logically in a more peaceful and in a better manner. So it would take some time for those reformations to creep in, but for the time now, India was not ready for those revolutionary changes with lots of intermediaries and entrepreneurs and rich businessmen having greater stakes at the cost of the welfare of the common farmers. So I don't know whether the government will try again to bring about those laws in other forms, or they will backtrack from the promises, as this government has been on a spree of losing this credibility and is, despite this peaceful demonstration, the government hasn't spared any attempt at maligning and spreading bad image, and also ridiculing or laughing at them with derogatory remarks, in fact. And they have been reduced to, in fact, thousands and thousands of farmers have been slapped with judicial inquiries, with cases, criminal cases, in fact. So probably those cases are going to be, lifted, and nobody is going to prosecute it for this, peaceful pestering after the demands that they have. Those demands are meant for all of us, and it gives me hope. Really, personally, I feel like I'm emboldened, I'm really poised, and in fact stoked that India is still vibrant with its economy, and apart from its robust democratic processes in action, and judiciary is alive, and things cannot be simply pushed through by dint of forces and coercion and your hegemonistic ruling over the masses, simply because you have the power to get some bills passed without being seen by committees after committees or any recommendations, and just by taking judiciary for granted. So the Supreme Court already lifted those 3 bills and had brought about its injunction on the implementation of. But Modi government was hell-bent upon going ahead with ignoring and being nonchalant about the evil impacts of or jeopardizing the future of the farmers, and it really had incurred huge losses, because for a year or so, thousands and thousands of farmers have been struggling without getting back to the original farming stance, and they have lost a lot of revenue. And Mahendra Singh Tikait, who remained as a poll star, he has been very hopeful, and he has always been showing confidence that this government, apart from Rahul Gandhi, who was equally poised, and he once in fact prophetically declared that this government will have to take those bills back one day. Probably he knew that. No government, the sane government, will afford to ignore such a huge barrage of protests and huge so the letter in writing is already inscribed and already promised, and is going to be pushed, is going to be passed through parliamentarians, and it won't take much time for it as long as the government wants it. It has been passing ordinances after ordinances, promulgating special orders and decrees, now if it is ready, so MSP will be introduced, all cases will be lifted, and all the cases from 5 states, apart from some of the compensation for those, will also be offered, because those families who have been bereaved and who have been dependent upon. So the draft is going to come the day after, And the revised draft, in fact, we call it, modified version of the draft, will be circulated among, and there would be the 5 members committee will be so there will be a ghar wapsi, I mean, getting back home on 15 December after doing a meeting with and they will probably formally announce a suspension or simply stopping of these demonstrations on 9th December. And on 11th, they're going to vacate all those borders being flanked by these heroes. In fact, I'll call them true heroes of India after independence. And those were the heroes who fought for the freedom of our country, and they gained freedom, laying their lives and all. These guys, they are the true heroes, the true freedom fighters post-Indian, independence. So kudos to those guys. My best wishes. I'm really, really, feel empowered, contented, happy. When I had to shoot my first video about the predicament of the struggling farmers, I had highlighted the key strength and weakness of those 3 bills passed. Today it's a Vijay Divas, the victory day, the day of the triumph, and for all of us, let's celebrate it. It's a real celebration. Thank you so much for listening.